camps operated by the Nazis and their collaborators during the Second World War as part of efforts to uphold the legacy of these noble liberators. Israeli President Isaac Herzog and Polish President Andrzej Duda will lead today's procession alongside 80 survivors of the Holocaust between the ages of 80 to 98, making this one of the largest gatherings of living Holocaust survivors together here in recent history. 40 of those have come from Israel, including those who were imprisoned right here at Auschwitz-Birkenau, as well as Buchenwald, Mauthausen, Dachau, and the Theresienstadt death camps, or those who managed to live through the war in hiding or as partisan fighters in the forests. 40 additional survivors come from countries around the world. It's astonishing to note that this is the 21st time that one survivor, Nate Leipziger from Canada, has returned here for the March of the Living, while 40 others are joining us for the very first time. Many are accompanied by their children, their grandchildren, and even their great-grandchildren in a moving symbol of the triumph of life over death. These survivors return not as prisoners, but as educators to share their histories as part of the campaign to inspire a new generation of witnesses to carry on their legacy. This may be their last chance that they're going to have to walk through these camps in memory of their loved ones who perished on these grounds. As the world witnesses a resurgence of anti-Semitism, these survivors feel now an urgency to share their call to stand against hatred, to support the Jewish people and the State of Israel, and to ensure that their voices and legacy are preserved for years to come. 7 torches will be lighted today. 6 are in memory of the 6 million Jewish men, women, children, elderly and young who perished in the Holocaust, while the 7th represents resilience, revival, and rebirth. The International March of the Living is at its core program that brings individuals to Poland and Israel to study the history of the Holocaust and to examine the roots of prejudice, intolerance, and hatred. Phyllis Greenberg Heidemann is the president of this esteemed organization. A short time ago, Phyllis and I discussed what makes this year's march, commemorating the 80th anniversary since the liberation of the Nazi concentration camps, particularly poignant.
Observing and commemorating the 80th anniversary since the liberation of the camps and the end of World War II, the welcome end of World War II, are so poignant and should be poignant to every freedom-loving person. But in the thoughts, I won't quote him directly, in the thought process of Elie Wiesel, we had hoped and we had prayed that anti-Semitism died here in Auschwitz. And we have poignantly learned, especially in the aftermath of October 7th, that anti-Semitism did not die here in Auschwitz. Our people died here in Auschwitz. Our ancestors died here in Auschwitz. Anti-Semitism, much to our fear, our chagrin, is alive and well and flourishing in every city, town, country around the globe. There is a great sense of not only resilience, but power to walk under the gates into Auschwitz, make a U-turn, and walk out of Auschwitz. Unlike the millions who died here so needlessly, so viciously, we are able to walk out of this place and continue our lives. My life is devoted to memory, to the remembrance of the past, to the dignity of those who died here. They didn't die here. They were murdered here. It has become a driving force to say, I'm here, I'm walking in there like my ancestors, but unlike my ancestors, I'm having the privilege, the blessing, the freedom to walk out. And when I walk out, what will I do? I'm going to fight with every fiber of my being and my colleagues, the incredible people who run the International March of the Living. We are devoted to combating anti-Semitism, helping to eradicate the evils of hatred, which we see as we stand here on this ground. We feel with our feet, with our hearts, and in our heads. We feel the hatred, and we understand what is the aftermath of man's inhumanity to man. If we don't do something about it today, now, 2025, then shame on us. Shame on us, because we have just seen the shoes of little children who, upon their arrival, were murdered here. They never had a chance. Little shoes of little children who did nothing to deserve this horrific, untimely, vicious murder, the taking of their lives. We at the March of the Living don't believe in lies and deception. We want to be honest, open, transparent, and pass on to the next generation the importance of understanding what happened here in this place, in this horrific place, and in many like it. This isn't the only killing place. This isn't the only death camp. In all these places that so viciously took the lives of so many innocent people, the 6 million Jews, what about all the others? What about the total of 11, if you ask some people, 11 million, if you ask other historians, True. 17 million True. People by the International Tracing Service? I tell you, why? Why? And what we must do is everything we can do to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future.
What do you foresee for future international marches of the living when fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors are able to join us?
That's part of the importance of the 80th anniversary. We are very well aware that this will probably be the last major anniversary where we will have a contingent of survivors, the witnesses, the eyewitnesses. What we're trying to do is fulfill the mission of Elie Wiesel. When you hear a witness, you become a witness. So we are determined in our communities around the globe, 50 countries, who are coming here today on 190 buses from 90 delegations, 8,000 people strong, that they must understand it's time to accept our social responsibility, each and every one of us, to make sure to provide a better future for all mankind.
You know, we're standing here and it's still just so impossible to understand the inconceivable. Do you think that the March of the Living does succeed, in fact, in educating the young people who come here so they can bear witness and carry that torch of remembrance?
I'm not sure that every student at the moment that you're in this frightening place understand. They can't grasp it right away. But I promise you that at some point in their life, what they have seen here, what they hear here, what they witness here will kick in. They will never be able to not take on a Holocaust denier. They will never accept Holocaust distortion and denial. Don't tell me it didn't happen here. It did happen here. I do believe that the student population are never the same. I don't believe any human being who walks into this place walks out the same person that they walked in. So yes, we believe that we are creating leadership for the future, advocates for the future, for a better future, for the Jewish people, for all people. And we will continue our work as long as our legs will carry us. We will march with them. And then we, the older generation, will pass the torch of leadership, pass the torch of memory onto those who will come after us so that we never forget those who came before us.
Since the March of the Living always emphasizes that survivors went on to live very full lives, I'm going to ask you, since we talked about the very somber moment that you experienced the first time you came, do you remember any really happy or very positive things that you've seen here after having coming here for so many years?
It's the great numbers of people that still want to come with us. It's much easier to go to Hawaii. It's much easier to go on a cruise. It's much easier to go any place in the world except Auschwitz-Birkenau. And yet, every year, we have throngs of people from around the world who stand up and say, I want to be a witness. I want to understand history while I can and maybe do something about the future. So yeah, that's my greatest inspiration. That's what keeps us going 51 weeks out of the year, to work for 1 week out of the year, is that we know, look at all the people around here who are coming of their own volition, not to go to a beach, they're not on holiday. They're coming to have their heart ripped out about the truth and veracity of the past, the living testimony, the buildings, the trees, the soil, the grass that wasn't here during the Holocaust, by the way. They want to learn. So it gives you a hope that not everybody is an anti-Semite. Not everybody is for death, dying, killing, murder, evil, hatred. Many people are for, the greater population, I have to believe, is for peace among people, and an understanding that each of us has the right to fulfill our lives. So yes, I'm very imbued every time I come here. As difficult as it is, we're going to keep doing it. We'll be here for 85 and 90 and 100. I won't be, but the young people taking over the mantle of leadership will lead this organization into the future.
Thank you, Phyllis, so much. Thank you on this very, very busy day for taking so much time with us. We appreciate it. And I want to tell you on a personal note, your organization has impacted my life, my daughter's life, my son's life, so many more children. You've changed many, many, many lives with your very important work. Thank you so much.
That's the reward right there. Thank you so much.
Today's milestone event is also paying tribute to the Second World War's Allied forces, led by U.S. Supreme Commander General Dwight D. Eisenhower, that ended Nazi tyranny and brought freedom to millions. General Eisenhower not only personally bore witness, but he also took action to ensure that the world would never forget the atrocities committed by the Third Reich of Adolf Hitler. Earlier, I had the privilege to speak with Mr. Eisenhower. Mr. Eisenhower, what is it like for you to be here today, knowing that your great-grandfather was instrumental in bringing about the end of the suffering and the closure, the liberation of these concentration camps? What's it like for you?
Honestly, it's truly humbling to be here with the people that live in this day and age, with this anti-Semitism that goes on, with the denying of the Holocaust, those types of things. I think it's absolutely incredible to be here with them. And also we have a lot of survivors that actually survive places like this, which is phenomenal. And so being here is humbling, it's emotional, and I think that my great-grandfather would be very proud of everyone here remembering the things that happened here.
You've actually personally met with people whose lives he saved, and people who met with him.
Of course. Growing up, you don't really think about these things, right? It's just a natural thing. You have all these it's like your own grandfather, right? So you played hide and go seek, you did all these things, you have family stories. Well, my grandfather had, caught a fish this big and all those different things. So you don't really think about it, right? And so when I was growing up, I met people like Elie Wiesel, right? And Elie Wiesel is obviously, he's extremely important to this whole entire movement and the liberation and all the things that happened, and his ability to translate that into words and explain it to people where people could understand it is something that was remarkable. But I didn't understand who Elie Wiesel was until I was in my 20s, and I met him when I was 14 years old. So growing up, you meet these people, you understand that they're important, but you don't really comprehend it. And then later on, when you reflect back on it, you actually truly understand and appreciate the fact that people were kind enough, first of all, to give you the time, and secondly, remember the fact that your great-grandfather had a part in history, a part in liberation of these camps, and a part of being of the overall movement of what happened.
I find it really intriguing that the Holocaust took such a big stage, for example, in your upbringing. When you mentioned having met Elie Wiesel, I would have imagined that his having your great-grandfather also been an American president, as well as a very impressive military leader, would have taken precedence over when you were growing up and what the education of your family and family tradition was.
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously we knew, growing up, I knew that Ike was a general.
Yes.
I knew he was a president, but really what I didn't understand until, even growing up, we still knew the Holocaust happened. We knew that it was important. We saw the different things that happened. In fact, those pictures that we talked about just a second ago?
Yes.
Those pictures are family photo albums that I saw when I was young. I mean, these are things that people don't realize. So we didn't only live through that situation. We were taught, our generation, my generation, was taught the same thing. We understand the importance of what happened and why we're here today, because we know that the pure destruction, the pure evil that took place in this camp behind us is something that cannot be repeated again.
Your grandfather, and I'd like you to say this in your words
Sure.
and explain the backstory on this, but he was prescient enough to know even then that one day there would be Holocaust deniers and took action to prevent that.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people when I talk about the Holocaust, I say two things happened on June 6, 1944, one D-Day. And the second thing, my grandfather came over from West Point. He graduated West Point, became aide-de-camp to Ike. Well, as they were going through Europe, my grandfather was tasked by General Eisenhower at the time to actually take those pictures, take those photos, make sure that it's documented, because one day, and I quote, "These bastards will say it never happened." And I'm sorry about the language, but that's a direct quote. So
It's pretty accurate,
yeah,
too.
I think so too. But if you think about it, and you think about what's happening today in today's world, we still have the same problems and issues that are going on, October 7th being one of those. So we need to remember that it is important for us today more than ever to know that this can never happen again. And being here with all the children and the young people and the adults and the survivors, it is remarkable to be here to see these things and to make sure that we are witnessing it so that we can spread the word and make sure that people understand what's happened.
Later today, you're going to honor us by lighting the Torch of Valor, which I find very, very appropriate. And you'll be lighting that alongside Rabbi Meir, Israel Meir Lau, who was liberated from Buchenwald and actually met your great-grandfather.
I'm actually humbled. When I found that out, I was just like, I don't know why I would be standing next to that man, but what he's done for the Jewish community is absolutely phenomenal. I am thrilled to be a part of that and honored as well. And my family supports this march because it does bring light to this in so many different ways. And the 80th anniversary is a fitting time to really show more. And being with him, it will be extra special in my opinion.
One last question.
Sure.
What did you call your grandfather and your great-grandfather? How do you refer to him at home?
My grandfather John is just Granddad, and Ike is Ike.
Ike is Ike.
Ike is-
Ike was always Ike.
For me, absolutely.
For all of us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. At least 8,000 people are participating in this year's event. Shosh asked the March of the Living's Chief Operating Officer, Liz Sinreich-Panich, what is involved in coordinating such a massive undertaking?
Liz, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. How do you feel right now in this moment? We just had the president of Poland, president of Israel walk through. We saw some released hostages also come through. Explain the atmosphere for us.
It's just so emotional because we've been working for an entire year on making this moment happen, and all of our staff have been working tirelessly just to, make this experience for all of the participants. To see it actually come to fruition now live, it's just a very emotional experience and very fulfilling, and we're so glad everyone is here.
I mean, you can see the reaction on people's faces when people unite and people with stories unite and survivors unite with released hostages and survivors reunite with each other. It creates this long-lasting moment and legacy. When you see that, how does that make you feel? This is your 16th year, so you've seen it a lot. Yeah. But this year, bring me to this year.
We just feel very blessed to be able to create these opportunities, to have over 80 survivors with us on this really monumental march, and to also have the released hostages and everybody else that's with us. It's just very fulfilling, and we feel very blessed to be able to create these human connections in these moments here in this very sacred place, and also for the students that are here to be able to witness that. We know it'll be life-changing for them for many years to come.
Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. There are now more than 300,000 alumni of the International March of the Living, most of whom were high school students from around the world who took part in the poignant activities, as well as over the past 3 decades. And they come here to honor the victims as well as the heroism of the survivors and the liberators, doing what was inarguably history's darkest chapter, emphasizing that we come here not only to shed tears, but also to embrace life. Participants Eden and Malka from Panama tell our reporter Shosh Bedrosian how being in such a tragic site with other Jews serves to fuel their own strength and unity.
Hi, Erin. I'm standing right now with 2 teenagers from the Panama delegation, both of their first times here in Auschwitz. What is it like for you both to be here?
For me, it's really shocking to see the Auschwitz camp and being here with a lot of other delegations, especially after October 7th, and seeing how the Jewish people unite and be strong and simply remember not to forget and be stronger than before.
Yeah, as she was saying, it's also like, well, it is very sad to be here. It's also like very like strengthening to be able to honor those who were here before us.
How does it feel to be part of the unity and to be part of the pride of being Jewish? Is it difficult to find that as someone who's from Panama and your age?
Thankfully, in Panama, we have a really nice, strong, and united community. But to be here is really amazing for me and for Malka as well. It's really beautiful to see how everybody owns their pride, their Jewishness, basically their pride for being Jewish, their love for their culture. Yeah, it's really, really empowering, and it gives us a strength to keep going and keep showing that side of our Jewish culture.
Has it been difficult for you after October 7th to wear that pride on your sleeve, to show that pride off?
I think it like for me personally has made me even more proud to show my identity, because I have like no shame in who I am, and I think that it even makes us like stronger.
And for anyone back at home for you guys in Panama who are also Jewish but have never come to Auschwitz, what would you like to tell them about this place? What would you want them to know?
I would like them to know that despite it being one of the places where a lot of our brothers and Jewish ancestors suffered, it's really an important and fulfilling experience to see, and it's really important to just come and really get a sense of what it really was in order to never forget.
Thanks so much for being with us today.
The nightmare of the past intertwined with the present when the Hamas and other Islamist terrorists carried out an organized massacre against Israelis on October 7th, 2023, bringing back agonizing memories and underscoring the persistent threat of the dangers posed by anti-Semitism and hatred, which further emphasizes just how critical it is to remember the Holocaust. According to the Israel Defense Forces, 7,000 Palestinians from Gaza were involved in the heinous October 7th attacks on Israel that began with a barrage of at least 4,300 missiles, vehicle and paraglider invasions at 119 different locations as part of a specific targeted assaults on 21 civilian communities as well as military bases. 1,195 people were massacred, including 736 Israeli civilians, of whom 36 were children, 79 were foreign nationals, and 379 were members of the security forces. Over 240 people were taken hostage, among them infants, children, elderly men and women. 196 hostages have now been returned to Israel through IDF rescue operations or exchange deals with Hamas, just 147 of whom were still alive. 59 remain in captivity, 24 of whom are believed to be alive, and 35 who are believed to have either been murdered on the 7th and dragged into Gaza or later killed there. Several former of the abducted Israelis and their family members are participating in today's March of the Living as part of a delegation hosted by the Menomedin Foundation for the second consecutive year. One of the Israelis who was released in a prisoner exchange with Hamas on February 22nd earlier this year was Omer Wenkert, who was abducted from the Nova Music Festival in Ra'im. Omer lost more than 30 kilograms, which is 66 pounds, due to starvation in captivity, and he also never received any medical treatment for an ongoing medical condition that he had. Another abductee, Bar Cooperstein, remains behind in extreme danger. Let's hear now from both young men's grandparents who are Holocaust survivors, Michael Cooperstein and Celi Venkart, the latter of whom said that she is here at the March of the Living as living proof that the Jewish people will survive despite all attempts to destroy us.
נולדתי בקישינב, בירת המולדובה. בשנת 1941 גרמנים ביחד עם רומנים פוצצו את העיר. באחת מהרקטות שנפלה על הבניין שלנו, ואימא שלי תפסה אותי והצליחה לברוח ביחד איתי. בן כמה אני הייתי 3 חודשים, 4 חודשים.
היינו 3.5 שנים בגטו ג'ורין, שזה ליד מוגילב. שם לא היו משרפות, אבל היה עוני, אנשים היו מתים מרעב, ממחלות, מקור. היינו בחדר אחד קטן, 6 אנשים מבוגרים, ואני, שהיו גם 2 דודות, וככה 3.5 שנים. השואה הראשונה, הייתי תינוקת. עכשיו, השואה השנייה שלי, היה שהנכד שלי, עומר ונקרט, שתפסו אותו ב7 לאוקטובר, שחמאס לקח אותו בשבי 505 ימים, לבד, מתחת לאדמה, מה שקרה שמה בקיבוצים, במושבים ובנובה. לא בא לי להאמין שזה יכול לקרות.
ילד בר זה הנכד הבחור שלי, רק לפני 3 חודשים קיבלנו עיתוי שהוא חי מאנשים שהשתחררו מהשבי. אם הגרמנים, שהפשיסטים, שהרגו כל כך הרבה יהודים, אלה כנראה למדו אצלם והכינו את כל התוכנית בדיוק באותה שיטה.
עומר נולד פעמיים. פעם שהוא נולד ב-23 למאי, ופעם השנייה ב-22 בפברואר, שחזר משמה.
בר, אני אוהב אותך, ואתה צריך להחזיק, ואני נותן הכל כדי להציל אותך.
בשבילי, להשתתף במצעד החיים. זו נקודה שצריכים שכולם יזכירו מה עבר העם היהודי במלחמת העולם השנייה.
As you can see now, the 37th International March of the Living has just gotten underway. Participants will follow in the footsteps of those taken by prisoners along the 3.2-kilometer route from the main headquarters in Auschwitz to the Birkenau extermination camp. There are thousands of Jewish and non-Jewish students and adults from around the world, around the globe, who are walking here alongside Holocaust survivors, dignitaries, religious figures, and cultural icons in remembrance of the Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust and in honor of those who survived.
The march is going to be led. The march is going to be led by 2 chairmen of March of the Living, Baruch Adler and Avi Dickstein, and please follow them. And all the people who are staying besides, please do not go before the first line, before the presidents. I'll appreciate you very much. Now, this march is different. In front of you, it's about 30 golf carts with survivors who are marching before us. So, after the sound of the shofar, you please remain standing so the first groups and the golf carts are moving and the flags, and after it, we will continue with the second shofar sound. Please, one.
Natalie Sanandaji is a native of Long Island, New York, who survived the Nova Music Festival massacre in southern Israel. After her miraculous escape, Natalie joined the Combat Anti-Semitism movement. Today marks her second consecutive time at the International March of the Living as the head now of a delegation of young people from Los Angeles. Here is what she and two of those participants had to tell me about a short time ago after I began by asking her about her own progress with overcoming the trauma of that awful day since we last saw her. We haven't seen you for a year. We want to check in with you. How have you been able to overcome the trauma of that terrible day?
I think just really shifting my entire life into working in the advocacy world and on a daily basis using my trauma to kind of try to make the world a better place. And being able to see, I think through my experiences, unlike a lot of the other survivors, because I now work in the advocacy world, I actually get to see how much of the world actually does support us and love us and is on our side. And it's an amazing experience to be able to know that and to be able to feel that positivity from the world. Because a lot of people ask me, like, when I speak out, do I receive a lot of messages of hate? And the answer is actually no. I receive a lot of messages of support from the Jewish diaspora, from...
Do you think that has something to do with your own personal approach? Because that's definitely not what most people are hearing.
I think maybe because my focus when I speak out happens to be on the fact that not only am I a survivor, but I'm also an Iranian Jew. And because my last name is Iranian, so a lot of the messages I receive are actually, I think there is a reason for that. It's because a lot of the messages I receive are from the Iranian diaspora. And the Iranian diaspora understands better than anyone else in this world that we have the same enemy. We're fighting against the same enemy. The Iranian people in Iran have been suffering under the hand of the Islamic regime for years. And the Islamic regime, obviously, Hamas is a proxy of that regime. So I think that is a big part of it, that I'm receiving most of my messages from the Iranian diaspora. And they're telling me to keep going. They're telling me they love me. They tell me that they support Israel and that they want Israel to win this war. So I think that is a big part of it, yes.
Have you kept in touch with any of the survivors from Nova or the hero who rescued you? Or have you even met other captives, people who've been released in the meantime?
Yes, it's actually incredible. We've really become a community, like all the survivors. Right. And I think even last time I met you, I didn't have that many opportunities to meet other survivors yet. And I still felt very almost isolated and separated from them. You know, I was doing my advocacy, but I wasn't in Israel that much at that point, the last time we met. And since then, I've gone to visit Israel so many times, and I've been able to meet so many other survivors. And that's been a huge part of my healing process, is being able to spend time with other people who understand what I went through. And also, I have gone to visit, his name is Moshe Sati, the incredible angel who saved my life. And I've spent time with him, and I message him all the time, and I'm constantly thinking about him.
So I did want to ask you just a little bit further about your work as a public affairs officer at the Combat Anti-Semitism movement. This literally has transformed your life, the work, the experience. Can you expand on that just a bit?
Working with CAM has completely changed my life, and through that work, because as an organization, most of the work that we do is interfaith. So it's a lot of working with Christian leaders, Muslim leaders. I think I really get to see kind of the righteous among our nations of today. The same way during the Holocaust, how we had the righteous among the nations that protected Jews and saved them and hid them from the Nazis. I get to meet those people that are our version of the righteous among the nations, those people who aren't Jewish and who aren't connected to this war in a personal way, but really care so much to make sure that we're constantly trying to make the world a better place. They're trying to teach other people about anti-Semitism. And it's really amazing to meet all these people who are so invested in this when they have no personal connection to it. So it's really amazing that through my work I get to experience that.
Talia, you're here with Natalie and also a group of other teenagers from Los Angeles. What kind of an insight have you gained from Natalie's own experiences?
I think I've learned that life is very precious, and you have to live it to the fullest and really be grateful for the opportunities you're given. And she was saved, and it's such an amazing story, so I have to carry that with me and the stories of all the other survivors.
Shane?
And I think the fact that, she had a horrible traumatic experience, but she didn't let it stop her, and instead she turned it into work where she can go and help others and, actually turn what her experience was into something that can change the world and make a difference is something so impactful and so meaningful.
When you think about the experiences of Holocaust survivors, do you see parallels between the survivors of the October 7th people who went through that, who endured those traumas like Natalie, and the survivors of the Holocaust themselves, and coming out on the other side? Does that give you some sort of a lesson in life?
Yeah, I think it's so inspiring that most people from both instances want to continue to speak out and teach about them, because it can be forgotten, it can be erased, but it is something so harmful and just shows how harmful hate is, that it needs to be spoken about and needs to be taught, because people need to know what happened.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
I mean, it was great, and for me, having gone to a Jewish school my entire life and learning about the Holocaust, and then just 2 years ago, something like this happens, and the parallels that I see are crazy. I mean, the anti-Semitism is still so great, and just because the Holocaust ended doesn't mean anti-Semitism ended, and the fact that we still have to stand together and fight against it.
You two are going to be heading to college soon. Do you expect that any of your experiences here will help fortify you for what is expected to come?
I do. I think anti-Semitism on college campuses has risen an unspeakable amount. Just visiting colleges over the past few weeks, I've seen it. I've seen the rallies and everything. And I think just seeing how people can survive and can move forward from these experiences and honestly grow as people, and something so traumatic like the Holocaust you can still move on from that, and you can still have a beautiful life, just makes me feel that I can get through all the anti-Semitism, I can get through all the hate, because love and community will rise above it.
I think for me, coming to a place like this and just becoming more educated helps for me to be able to, stand my ground and spread that to other people who are maybe uneducated, and being able to do that will allow me to feel more confidence in college and stuff like that.
I certainly hope so. We wish you a lot of luck in the coming years. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. And Natalie, so great to see you again. Continue to thrive. Hopefully we'll see you next year. Yeah. Also with us here today at Auschwitz-Birkenau is Aliza Vidish-Shomron, who is one of the last surviving fighters of the Jewish Combat Organization at the Warsaw Ghetto. Aliza has said that being at the March of the Living is a way to close the circle and to fulfill the testament of her comrades in the Jewish Combat Organization, and to relate the story of their heroism. In her words, "We have proven to the world and to the Germans that we survived the inferno, the valley of death, and that we went on to build families who will march with us at the March of the Living, bringing pride to the state of Israel."
אני לא יודעת איך לתאר את זה, אבל הייתי די אמיצה, והייתי סך הכל בת 14-15. אני הייתי בארגון הלוחם. אני ידעתי שהם מתכוננים למרד בוורשה. אני הלכתי מכיוון שאני האמנתי שאני חייבת ללכת. אני האמנתי שמה שאני עושה זה נכון. תראו, מרדכי דלביץ' היה בחור מאוד חכם, והוא נפגש עם הצדודים הצעירים, והוא הכיר אותנו. יותר מבוגרים פוצצו קרונות רכבת, ועשו פעולות יותר גדולות. אנחנו הצעירים היינו עושים פעולות שלא היו פחות מסוכנות, ושהעונש עליהם היה אותו דבר. מרדכי דלביץ' הוא אמר את זה, אבל תדעו לכם שבארגון הלוחם אנחנו לא נחיה. כי מראש אנחנו מכינים את עצמנו שאנחנו ניפול. זה הכי יקר לי. זה קיבלתי מנשיא מדינה, אות הלוחם מנאצים. זה פרפר, כי אין פרפרים בגטו. אני הולכת למצעד החיים בפולין. אני רוצה לקחת את 4 דורות, את הבן שלי, ואת הנכד שלי, ואת הנינים שלי. אני רוצה להראות לעצמי ולנו ולעולם שאנחנו חיים. בשבילי זה ניצחון.
Lighting the torch of strength alongside Eliza Vitas-Shomron are representatives of leading companies and foundations in both the global and the Israeli tech ecosystems. They include 10 different enterprises which have joined forces to support the delegation of Holocaust survivors traveling from Israel. Here now is what Nir Zohar, the president and CEO of VIX, had to tell Shosh.
And Aaron, joining us now is Nir Zohar, the president and COO of WIX. Thanks so much for being here today. What is it like for you to be back on the grounds here of Auschwitz? The last time you were here was many years ago, you told me, back in 11th grade. So to be here now, tell me how you're feeling.
It's very emotional. It's been a tough 24 hours. We got here yesterday. We spent some time in Krakow, in the Jewish quarter and the Jewish ghetto in Krakow, hearing some of the stories. And then we had this opening evening together. We were essentially kind of a combination of 3 delegations, the tech delegation with the Holocaust survivors delegation and the October 7th survivors delegation. So we had an evening together in which people told stories and we got to know each other a little bit. So it was already very, very emotional. And then today, starting the day in Birkenau, and now in Auschwitz, it's tough, but I think it's extremely important to come here and to remember through your feet and not only from the stories.
Why a high-tech delegation this year? This is the first time this has happened, but why?
Well, I think a few things have happened and are combining together over time. I think generally the tech sector in Israel, the tech industry in Israel has been really maturing in the last few years. We see bigger companies, we see many more public companies, which is great for Israel. It really is pushing the economy forward. But it also means that suddenly you have these more mature companies with more mature executives and entrepreneurs and teams that are looking around themselves and saying, you know, we have all of these capabilities, all of these resources, there are more we can do and contribute back to our communities. And I think that then came October 7th and really heightened our need to get more involved in what's happening around Israel. And it happened all across in so many different initiatives by so many different companies. And earlier this year, we were actually approached by the March of the Living organization who told us that you know, it's 80 years since the war ended. Sadly, we have less and less of the Holocaust survivors with us. And they really wanted to try and bring more this time around of the Holocaust survivors to come here for the March of the Living. And we thought it was another great opportunity to combine forces and come together as a whole bunch of companies. So I'm here for WIX, but with my own delegation, but there's quite a few other companies that have joined us and contributed also to sponsoring and bringing more 40 additional Holocaust survivors to participate, and also bringing all of the employees with us. I think it's a very important move, and I do believe that we're going to continue doing this in years to come.
It's seeing your employees in a completely different capacity. Instead of the office life, you're really connecting with them on a deep personal connection. What is that like? It's a change of relationship, but a very powerful one.
You know, I don't even know. I'm not even sure how that's going to play out. I think we're in the midst of it, but everyone here go through their own emotional cycle in a different pace, and something different triggers them or gets them involved. And I don't think I'm here as their manager or their executive. We're just, we're here as a team, and we're all going through this together.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Now we can really see that the march is getting underway as all of the participants start to take the first steps, exiting the Auschwitz camp en route to Birkenau. It's interesting to note, as I said before, they're following in the footsteps of victims of these camps. Most deportees, most of the Jewish deportees who were selected for death, were forced to walk by foot from Auschwitz I to their deaths in the gas chambers of Auschwitz II, which is Birkenau, where I'm currently located. This was the routine until the completion of new railways ahead of the arrival of Hungarian Jews, made through July of 1944, that transported the victims directly to the sites of the gas chamber area and the crematoria. The Nazis actually began segregating Jews from non-Jewish populations soon after invading neighboring countries, beginning here in Poland in September of 1939. Ultimately, 90% of all Polish Jews were murdered during the Holocaust. Following the conquest of the former Soviet Union in June of 1941, the mass shootings of up to 2 million Jews were carried out. Later, the so-called final solution to the Jewish question, aimed at eradicating all Jews, was officiated by top Nazi leaders at the January 1942 Wannsee Conference outside of Berlin. Jews were deported by cattle trains to Nazi concentration camps, where they were either gassed to death upon arrival or used as forced labor under brutal conditions. Tens of thousands died of starvation, beatings, or during vicious forms of medical experimentation. Amid a sharp rise in anti-Semitism on campuses in the wake of the 2023 Hamas attacks on Israel, the International March of the Living launched a university presidents and chancellors mission from the United States and Canada. A diverse group of leaders and higher academic institutions, including public, private, Catholic, evangelical, and historically black colleges and universities. Shosh asked two of these prominent university presidents what it's like to be at the forefront of the anti-Semitic tsunami and what kind of efforts they're making to combat it.
So thank you both for joining us today. I understand it's both of your first times in Auschwitz doing a march with March of the Living. What is it like for you to step foot right here in this concentration camp? We'll start with you.
Oh, it is a very emotional experience. So I'm a child of a German and an Austrian, and so I'm deeply aware about the responsibility of our countries to that, and so it is a very emotional moment for me to step in here.
And what about you?
Certainly echo the comments of my colleague. It's tremendously emotional given the shared experience of African Americans in America with our Jewish brethren. We stand in full solidarity and in this solemn moment acknowledge 80 years since their liberation.
And as president of one of the HBCUs in the United States, talk to me about that bridging relationship between the black community and Jewish community in the United States.
The black and Jewish communities have always had a close tie. Jewish scholars have studied and have taught at HBCUs in our country for generations. We are most grateful for that relationship. We understand that all forms of hate, having a shared history of persecution and hate, creates a tie that binds us integrally one to another and we stand in solidarity as allies with each other.
Now, you had a very strong message after October 7th about these communities coming together. Why that message during that time and still right now?
I think we saw on October 7th that hate is still alive and well. We saw that it is necessary for each of us to lift our voices against hate wherever it might rear its head in the world. We acknowledge the suffering of our Jewish brothers and sisters and again renounce and denounce all forms of hate and violence directed at our Jewish community.
And college campuses around the world have seen a lot of protests when it comes to this war and a lot of anti-Semitism as well. How have you both combat anti-Semitism on your campuses, if you have seen that, of course?
So directly at our campus, we do not have such a problem with anti-Semitism because our university stands for an all-together live and it is very important for us to fight against anti-Semitism. So we are very open to every discussion. We even have a working group working on the history of our university in the Nazi regime. And I think that is one of the most powerful tools we do have to fight anti-Semitism at our university.
I think a shared history between the Jewish community and the African American community have contributed to the absence of anti-Semitism and issues of the like on our HBCU campuses across the country. What we can do, perhaps most importantly, is to stand up and be very vocal against all forms of anti-Semitism on our sister institutional campuses and to ensure safe haven on our campus for all of our Jewish brothers and sisters.
Right, so many Jews walked hand in hand with people fighting in the civil rights movement in the United States. Thank you both so much for joining me today and giving me your perspectives.
It's an honor. Thank you for the invitation.
Meanwhile, the president of the Holocaust Museum in Argentina, Marcelo Mindlin, tells our reporter, Shos Bedrosian, that he's excited to bring his first ever delegation to the International March of the Living.
And joining us now is Marcelo, who is the president of the Holocaust Museum in Buenos Aires. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is the first time you've had an organized delegation to Auschwitz from your museum. Tell me what it feels like for you to be here bringing all of these people.
I came here 8 years ago, and then I decided that when going back to Argentina, I wanted to put a lot of my efforts into renovating the museum. So from 8 years, the Museum of Buenos Aires is working, and we decided to organize this group with friends of the museum, donors of the museum, but also we include 15 very important and relevant journalists, newspapermen from the radio, from the TV, from the written media to join us. So we are here doing this trip all together.
And when you walk back onto the grounds of Auschwitz and you're with all of these people from the museum representing all of the work you've put in to your museum in Argentina, how does it feel?
It feels that I have taken the right decision with my family. It feels that I have to renew my efforts and to bring more and more friends to help us educating the people about the horrors of the Holocaust in every part of the world. Our responsibility is to do it in Argentina.
And I know that just a few years ago, you guys had a brand new exhibit that opened with Nazi artifacts. Could you talk about the importance of continuing to provide new information for people that come in through your museum?
Yeah, our focus is young people, and young people not from the Jewish community. So every year we're taking 100,000 young students to the museum from many schools from in the country. And to do that, we had to renew the exhibition, to do it more digital, more interactive, so as to capture the attention of the young people.
And do you feel like that's working? I mean, we're in a time of social media is changing so much. There's a lot of misinformation out there. How is your museum combating that?
Doing that, we are not only taking young kids from different schools, but also security forces, police, judges, politicians. So we are trying to do a big education program so as to reach every part of Argentina. Thanks to God, Argentina is not suffering the same kind of anti-Semitism that other countries. And I think one of the reasons is because the local community has been doing a great job over the last decades to educate and to interact with the community.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Staying with Argentina, and a delegation of students from Buenos Aires is also here today. One student leader named Benjamin tells Shosh about the importance of walking through the history with the survivors.
And Erin, joining us now is Benjamin, 17 years old, from Buenos Aires, Argentina. This is the first time he has been to Auschwitz. Tell me what it's like for you to walk through the gates here, have your feet touch the ground where so many Jews were murdered. What is it like for you to be in this moment?
Well, it's definitely a really emotional situation, learning about concentration camps, the Holocaust, since I'm in primary school. It's like reaching the place and where everything happened. So yeah, it's really emotional place, and I'm really happy and glad I can come here thanks to my family, thanks to school. And yeah, it's really, really emotional.
What's something that makes you the most emotional? If you can pick something out for us, if there's something that you've already seen or something you've already experienced, what would it be?
Well, definitely walking through the gate with the phrase "the work frees people." That's the most emotional thing I've done yet. We've been walking through the camp, but yeah, it's definitely the most emotional and cruel thing I've yet seen on the camp. it's definitely the gate. Yeah.
You've told me you've been to other Holocaust museums before, you've been to Israel, but this was the first time you've been here. Why now? Why at this very moment in time?
First of all, because it's part of a school project, and thanks God, I think I've come now and not later. I think it's the moment. We as young people, I think we're the future of our community, especially here in Argentina. I thank God I'm here now. I thank God I'm here because I think this gives me a lot of content to get future generations to collaborate, to cooperate with the learning of what happened, with the transmission of our culture. And yeah, I think that's what's the most important thing of me being here, being now, and yeah, staying our culture alive. That's the most important thing.
Right, making sure the history stays alive so you can take it back home and teach others. What is it like to be 17 years old, living in Argentina as a Jew? Many people might not know what it's like. If you could share that with us.
It's really, I don't know if say strange, but yeah, it's something which you both live as an Argentinian, as a Jew. I go and eat asado, and I get with my family for the Sedarim. I go to the Shield with my family. I'm a Madrid. I play football, and I don't know. It's really both cultures can live together, and yeah, it's really nice. It's a really nice culture.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Let us now hear about the breathtaking triumph over the Third Reich by Naftali Forst, who was born in 1932 in Bratislava, Slovakia, then Czechoslovakia. His family was caught in hiding and sent to the Sered concentration camp in 1942, from which they managed to escape from 2 years later, but were recaptured and reinterned also in Sered. Then in November of that same year, the family was deported here to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where the children were separated from their parents. The two brothers were subsequently sent to the Budi subcamp and later survived a death march to Buchenwald, from which they were ultimately liberated. And then, miracle of miracles, they were ultimately actually reunited with their parents, who also managed to survive and emigrate to Israel together. Today, Naftali lives in Haifa and is the father of artist Ronit Forst and has 4 grandchildren.
יום הולדת שלא היה. אני נזכר שיום ההולדתי ה-12 נשכח. ביום הולדתי לא היו מוזמנים, לא היו הורים ולא חברים. לא הייתה עוגה עם נרות, בוץ, ערפל, שלג, קור ורעב. הייתה עצבות, בדידות ופחד אימה. ההורים שלי ואחי שמואל הגענו ב-3 בנובמבר מחנה בירקנאו. אחרי כמה ימים נפרדנו מאבא והעבירו אותנו את הילדים לבלוק הילדים שבאושוויץ. שמהבלוק הזה תמיד כשהיו חסרים אנשים לתאי הגזים, משם בחרו את הילדים. יום אחד הצעידו אותנו למחנה אחר. ואז פעם ראשונה אני עברתי על יד האושוויץ המחנה, על יד שער המחנה, וראיתי את השלט ארבעת מחפריי. וגם שמענו את התזמורת מנגנת. בבוקר כולנו, כל המחנה, התחילו לצאת מהמחנה, ולמעשה אז התחילה צעדת המוות שלנו. שם היינו חייבים להוכיח כמה אנחנו רוצים לחיות, כמה אנחנו לא רוצים להרים ידיים, ושהחיים שלנו ייגמרו בצעדת המוות. אחרי שצעדנו את צעדת המוות, הגענו לתחנת רכבת מרכזית. אחרי שהרכבת עצרה בבוכנוולד, אז הורידו אותנו מהקרונות. הגעתי למצב של גסיסה והבלוקלטסטר אמר לאח שלי שאתה חייב לקחת אותו לבית החולים, לרביר, כי הוא כבר עוד כמה שעות, אם לא תציל אותו, הוא ימות פה בתוך הצריף. יום אחד בבוקר, הנשים נעלמו, לא היו. האס-אס שהיה אחראי על הבלוק גם נעלם, ונשארנו רק האסירים מהבית חולים לבד. אז אנחנו מסתכלים החוצה מהחלון, ורואים שהאסירים רצים בצעקות לקראת האפל פלץ, ואני למעשה השתחררתי ב-11 באפריל 1945 כאן מבוכנוולד.
You know, it's such a somber day in so many ways, and at the same time, we must remember it's also a joyous occasion. This is the March of the Living. We see these teenagers. Some of them are very serious. Some are really reflecting on what took place here. And some, remember, they're young people. They're smiling. They are enjoying the fact that the Jewish people has lived, survived, and thrived. They are marching alongside the Holocaust survivors, sharing conversations, and you will see tears, but you will also see laughter, because it is the triumph of life over death. Right now, we're looking at visuals of a special U.S. law enforcement delegation. It's a global transnational delegation coming from many different countries, the United States, Canada, Sweden. Here we see other service people, different delegations from various schools in Israel, as you can see. It's a very mixed group. Very diverse group of people, again, Jews, non-Jews, people who come here to honor the memory of those who have passed, but also renew the call for never again, never let such a disaster happen again. And let us now listen to the chilling and remarkable testimony of a child survivor of 11 separate concentration camps, including the Birkenau Extermination Center, Dr. Arnold Klebs, who was liberated by the U.S. Army. Arnold is here today with his 2 adult children and a grandchild, who will join him as he will light the torch of defiance at today's official ceremony. Here's a short video about some of his dreadful experiences.
The train came in the evening to a place which was unbelievable. 4 big chimneys, the fires coming out. The sky was lit up from the fires, and there was a certain smell. The place was Birkenau. They lined us up in front of the barracks. And who shows up? Dr. Mengele. And this was the children's selection. He comes to me. He says, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 14. He says, "Take down your pens." I lowered my pens. He said, "Take off your shirt." I took off my shirt. He hits me over the face. He passed me right by, took out my friends to the right, took out the friends to my left. They took out 75 boys that day from my group. I saw the fires in the crematoriums go up. I'm the only one in conversation with Mengele and lived. My job in Birkenau was being hooked up to a big wagon. Instead of a horse, I was a horse. We used to pick up the dead bodies in Birkenau. At the January 1945, they marched us out in the morning. They told us to lie down in the snow. Then when the order came to get up, I couldn't get up. I was asleep. I fell asleep in the snow. Put us on trains. I scraped with my fingernails the wall of the train to get a little bit of ice in my mouth. they took us to another camp called the tent camp. We were left to ourselves. On the following morning, when we were ready to escape, the American Army came in and liberated us. This was something special. They took us to southern Italy and put us in an orphanage. One day, a man comes into the orphanage and says to me, "What do you think would happen if you meet your mother again?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Come, take a walk with me. Look down on the road. Whom do you see?" It was my mother. This is how I met my father again. To march as a Jew, as a free man, with my children who will be with me at the march, and to see my grandson joining the Tzanchanim here in Israel. The greatest victory for me.
And joining me right now is Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey with his wife. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is the first time you are visiting Auschwitz, is that correct?
That is correct. I'm the former U.S. ambassador to Germany, so we've sadly visited many concentration camps, but this is the first time here at Auschwitz.
And what has it been like for you so far just to step foot here? I mean, this is the 80th anniversary of the liberation of these concentration camps, and there are 80 Holocaust survivors that will be here today leading this march with 8,000 people, a lot of eights, a lot of significant numbers here. But what is it like for you to step foot right now here?
Lots of emotions, obviously, bone-chilling, the horror, the tragedy, the loss of life, loss of overwhelmingly of innocent life, but also the resilience of the Jewish people embodied by those survivors who will be with us today. And the notion that we march, we never forget the lessons, the tragic, awful lessons of history, but we use that to power our strength and passion that we never live through that again, and we go forward. So it's a mix of a lot of different emotions, and we're incredibly honored and humbled to be here.
What was the reason why you decided to come this year? It has a lot of significance. There's going to be released hostages from Hamas captivity also marching here today after October 7th, the second one to take place after October 7th. What's the significance of coming to this one?
We've wanted to do it for years, honestly. This is my last year as governor. We committed that we wanted to be here. We also still have a hostage from New Jersey, Adon Alexander. We pray for him and his family. Please God, he's released soon. But we've wanted to come here for years, and we're relieved and honored and humbled that we're finally here.
Is there a message you plan on taking back to New Jersey after an experience like this today?
Well, always never again. Never forget, never again. But we also live in a time with extreme division, extreme still anti-Semitism, and far right behavior, that all of which is unacceptable. We have to find common ground, come together, eradicate the hate, focus on what we have in common as humans, and move forward. We have one of the largest Jewish populations in the world, actually, in New Jersey. We're incredibly proud of that community, and we stand behind it forever and for always.
Thanks so much. Anything you'd like to add, just being here today?
I would just say my family fled the pogroms from Poland in the 1800s, and we helped bring some of our surviving relatives out in the 1930s to the United States. So this is particularly poignant to be here. As Phil said, never forget, and we've got to stand strong.
Wow, incredible to have that legacy in your family. What has been the message, I mean, just for you to be here and to see all of this firsthand? I'm assuming it's your first time here too.
Sadly, it's my first time. Yes.
Yeah, and to have this history in your family, what are you expecting, what are you hoping to gain from today?
I think maybe I will see my family's name in the book, and I can take this back for my own living relatives in America. Everyone has been pulling together to try and find old records and photographs, So I guess anything we can do to share our history and make sure that nothing like this ever happens again.
Amen.
Thank you both so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Wait. We can now see extremely important and meaningful visuals of the survivors and the teenagers entering the grounds of Birkenau, passing under that notorious camp gate that one usually visualizes when thinking of the Holocaust. Leading that march, right there in front, is Holocaust survivor Irene Shashar, who yesterday photos of her went viral around the world as she hugged two Israeli hostages who were just released. They were field observers. One was Agam Berger, who will later perform here today. She's a violinist. She was released from terrible captivity. And Ori Magadish, who is also with her. Both young women suffered terrible torment in captivity. And the woman that you see right now leading this march, in kind of a spontaneous moment, it wasn't planned, it was captured and went around the world. Now we're going to bring you the deeply meaningful testimony of Elia Katz, who lived a tranquil life in Lithuania until the rise of Nazism. Try as you listen to her to really feel her powerful struggle to survive and what that must have been like. The global chairwoman of the Keren Kayemet L'Israel, Ifat Avadia-Lusky, then underscores the critical imperative to triumph over evil.
יער בשבילי זה הישרדות. שרדתי ביער. היינו שנתיים ביערות. גרנו בעיירה קטנה שקוראים לה מרצ'יקוניס. זו תחנת רכבת בין וילנה לגרודנו. וחיו בשקט ובשלווה. ובשנת 41 הגרמנים הגיעו לעיירה. הכניסו את כולנו לגטו. ואמרו לכולם לצאת לרחבה של הגטו, נוסעים לעבוד במקום אחר. בשנת 41 כבר היו שמועות על המשרפות. אז הצעירים החליטו, אנחנו לא עולים לרכבת. התחיל ירי מטורף. אמא שלי נהרגה במקום. אבא שלי תפס אותי, הוא צעק לרוץ אחריי, אבל היא נהרגה במקום. המשכנו לרוץ לכיוון היער, הגענו לעובי היער, ושם פגשנו את כל אלה מהכפר שהצליחו לברוח. הם היו פרטיזנים, הגברים, והיו הולכים בלילה לפוצץ רכבות של הגרמנים. והיינו שנתיים ביערות האלה, לא היה מה לאכול, וכל הזמן הגרמנים חיפשו אותנו. קור, מינוס 30-40 מעלות, שלג עד הנה שכיסה אותי. כל הזמן נדודים ונדודים ונדודים, ונשארנו בחיים. כשאני צועדת במצעד החיים, אני אחשוב על אמא שלי שנרצחה בגטו, ועל סבא וסבתא שלי שנרצחו באושוויץ. אני סוגרת מעגל, בשבילי אין לי מילים. אחד הנכדים שלי אמר, סבתא, זכית, זכית, את שרדת את השואה, זכית לנינים. עם ישראל חי.
היום היער הוא מסמל בשבילנו תקומה וצמיחה, ונותן לנו המון המון ביטחון, ונותן לנו מזור לנפש. בעצם הוא האנטיתזה למה שהוא היה עבור היהודים בשואה. אבל אנחנו כאן, זוכרים, בונים ונוטעים, ובעיקר מבטיחים, לעולם לא עוד.
Keren Kayemet L'Israel, which is known by its acronym KKL, or as the Jewish National Fund in English, is the long-term strategic partner of the International March of the Living, with over 3 decades of work together to educate Jewish teens worldwide about the Holocaust and the State of Israel. I asked KKL World Chairwoman Ifat Avadia-Lusky, who we just saw in that last video, to share with us her own personal connection to the Holocaust. Ifat, I understand that you have a personal connection to the Holocaust. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yes, I do have. My father's aunt murdered along with her husband and their 4 children in Greece and in Treblinka. But you know, to be here, it's not only about my family story, and I mean it's deeply personally, but I feel that Keren Kayemet Li'Israel has the responsibility to connect the young generation to our history, to the Jewish people history. And you know, my personal story, it's very hurt because I feel like my father's aunt, she was around my age, and the kids was around my kids' age, and it's very hurt. But we should looking forward, looking to the future.
Many people don't know that the Nazis and the killing machine reached as far away as Greece.
Yeah.
What happened to the other ancestors you had in Greece?
Actually, it was in the end of the war, and it was in North Greece, in a small town. It's named Komotini. My father's aunt, she was a teacher, and his husband deal with jewelry. And as I said before, they had 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys. And the Nazis, it was with Bulgaria. Yes. Okay, with Bulgaria.
Yes.
Because, you know, Germany gave to Bulgaria the north of Greece.
Yes.
And they killed some of them in the town, and some of them they took by train to Treblinka.
It's unfathomable. And to lose family members like this, it does bring it so much closer and deeper in your heart, although it all hurts, as you say.
Yeah, yeah.
But back to your program at Keren Kayemet, part of the program in general, it usually brings young people to Israel, which that part of the program is being disrupted right now because of the ongoing war with Hamas. So I understand that you found a way to bring Israel to them. Explain that to us, please.
First, no one can win us, okay? We are, some of the teens come to Israel and some stay here. But during all the war, we show many delegations from all over the world that came Israel and strengthened us. So now we decided to bring also Israel and Kakal values to here, to Poland, to the teens. But I'm sure that after they will doing here in Shabbat Israelit, which we bring them the Israeli culture and the Jewish legacy and the Zionist spirit, I'm sure that they will come even before next year.
Today, you're going to be honoring us by lighting the torch of rebirth, along with several survivors. What does this symbolize to you?
It's very emotional and powerful, because I'm doing now with a Holocaust survivor. And for me, it's a symbol for victory. I know that now, during the war in Israel, the soldiers are the grandchildren of the survivor that and from here.
That's right.
Yeah, and now in the IDF, they are protect us. They protect our homeland.
Absolutely.
And it's so strong to me. And I feel that this is the victory of Am Israel.
Yifat, thank you very much for taking time with us today. Thank you. As you can see now, just behind me, we have many different marchers arriving here in Birkenau. Some of them are gathered close together. Some people are marching with pride, as you see right now. We see the teenagers. Different moods. It depends on how this is affecting you. For almost all the teenagers, it's the first time they've been there. Again, for others, some people have been here more than 30 times. They feel the need to return, particularly the survivors, to share their stories. But people come here with a sense of, now we're seeing people laughing and clapping. And that's the joy that I'm telling you about, that there is this joy. You see the flag of Israel carried on young people's shoulders with such pride. Of course, had the state of Israel existed during the Second World War, millions and millions, 6 million at least, the lives of Jewish people would have been saved. Israel didn't have an army then. Israel does today. We see the flag waving right now. Also, some of them, as I think you can see, well, we just saw that, they're marked with the yellow hostage memory symbol that has come to symbolize October 7th hostages and captives that remain in Gaza or those who've been released. So the yellow color is generally meant to signify the hostages taken by Hamas in 2023, that terrible October 7th, what some people call the Black Sabbath. It took place on a Saturday, an extremely important Jewish holiday. It's called Simchat Torah. In a very, very paradoxical way, Simchat Torah is all about celebrating the Bible. And it was a Sabbath morning when that terrible event took place. Now what we're looking at, participants have the opportunity to take this wooden placard that you're looking at and write their own personal message that they leave along the way. And again, we're looking at a very well-known and very special survivor leading the march. Now again, right next to those train tracks, right next to the rails that brought so many tens of thousands of people to their deaths, this young woman is leaving a message. Here's a young man proudly portraying the Israeli flag. What a shot, because you see that horrible gate right behind you and those very same train tracks. Other very, very, very happy teens proclaiming we are alive. It says Sharut Leomi Israel. Those are special, it's a special branch. Those are people who, instead of going into the army, they do a national volunteer period of time. Look at the triumph. Look at the happiness. We're alive. We're alive. Now our next video of testimony is from Holocaust survivor Galia Steiner, who was born in Poland in 1941, and it conveys the courage of righteous Gentiles, people who risked their own lives, who were not Jewish. They risked their own lives and their families to shelter Jews. And then that is followed by an important message from Pastor John Hagee, who is the founder of Christians United for Israel.
הייתי תינוקת כשפרצה המלחמה. את אבא שלי גייסו לצבא הרוסי, לחזית, והוא נהרג שם. אמא שלי נשארה עם 2 ילדות. את כל היהודים שנשארו בעיירות, הגרמנים, קיבצו לגטו נובגרודק. ואמא שלי, עם עוד אנשים מהמשפחה שלה, החליטו לברוח מהגטו בעזרת הגוי ששמו בוברובסקי. הוא נחשב לחסיד אומות העולם בגלל זה. התחבאנו אצלו במרתף. אני כבר הייתי קרוב לגיל 2, חליתי, השתעלתי, בכיתי, והיה פחד גדול שהשכנים יגלו וילשינו. אז העיקר הציע שיקחו אותי לשחק בחוץ עם הילדים שלו, בשדה. הסיפור נודע לגרמנים, כי באמת מישהו הלשין. הם הגיעו למקום, שרפו את הבית על יושביו, הרגו את בוברובסקי, את אשתו וילדיו, אמא שלי ואחותי הגדולה יותר. מי שנשאר בחיים זו אני ואחת מהבנות של בוברובסקי. נשארנו לבד בשדה. 2 ילדות קטנות.
Throughout history, the Jewish people have faced unimaginable darkness, yet they have never stood alone. and they never will. The sanctity of life is a sacred truth, one that transcends time, faith, and borders. When the world turned its back, there were those who stood firm. There were those who defended life, who upheld righteousness, and who refused to be indifferent in the face of evil. We are proud to stand beside Holocaust survivors who were saved by the courage of the righteous among the nations. You are living testaments to the power of faith, resilience, and the unwavering bond between those who choose good over evil. Today, as then, we stand with the Jewish people, and we stand with Israel. You will never be alone.
Here now is what Pastor Hagee and his daughter Sarah Hagee Parker, who is the founder and co-executive of CUFI, had to tell Shosh earlier in Auschwitz.
And his daughter, thank you both so much for being with us today. This is your first time in Poland.
Yes.
Tell me what it's like to walk in the steps of where thousands of Jews were killed not so long ago.
It's an amazing thing, the hurtful things that one human being will do to another when they do not live by the righteous principles of the Word of God.
And being here, how do you feel being able to walk in the same footsteps as them?
The people who were brutally treated here by the Nazis are a memorial of sacrifice, and we have come to be standard carriers of the light. In the Bible, the light is a feature from Genesis to the end of the Bible. Light is a standard of righteousness. Light is to illuminate the pathway of life that we're walking on. So we have come to honor the Jewish people, both past and present, with the lights that we will light in this place tomorrow.
Beautifully said. And for you, being with your father, who has inspired and has brought so many Christians out to support Jews and the Jewish state, what is it like for you to be here?
I feel very honored to be here, especially this time on the eve of the March of the Living in Yom HaShoah. I've had the privilege of coming with a survivor before, so this is actually my second time here. And as Christians who believe the mandate of the Bible to do what they can to stand with Israel and her people, there is no finish line in that endeavor, and we do everything that we can at Christians United for Israel to carry out that mandate. Similarly, it's important to be here to bear witness to what has happened so that we are standard bearers in ensuring that it never happens again, and of course being able to experience it with my father and our delegation from Christians United for Israel as we carry the second and third generations of what we do. It's very important.
After October 7th, have you seen an increase in your community, an increase in the amount of Christians that are supporting Jews in a very dark and painful time?
Christians United for Israel was started in 1981, and it is a very strong organization that always rallies to Israel every time that they get in any kind of difficulty, whether it's financial funding, whether it is for constant prayer. We have done everything that human beings can do to help another human being whenever they're in a time of crisis, whether it's a need of food, money, medical, whatever. Christians United for Israel has given over $180 million to make that happen.
I think most importantly, so when Pastor Hagee started the Knights to Honor Israel in 1981, which was the predecessor to the organization of CUFI, because he had spent 40 years of preaching this message and undoing the damage that anti-Semitism had done in the Christian church through the fallacy of replacement theology and things like that. Once 10/7 happened, something that so many people thought could never happen, and they saw this modern day manifestation of anti-Semitism today. Christians United for Israel and its associate churches rallied, and within days, sent in $9 million to try and meet this humanitarian need that we knew was going to be so great. Since then, we have sent multiple trips to Israel. We have done campaigns in the United States, Israel, you are not alone, trying to do what we can to make sure that the Jewish people, whether they're in our country or the nation of Israel or Ukrainian Jews needing help to get to Israel, that we are doing what we can, where we can, to stand with the Jewish people.
My last question I want to ask is, how important is the Jewish and the Christian alliance during moments like this, but not even needing catastrophe to bring people together?
In our church and in our organization, how Israel is being treated is number one, always on the agenda, because the Jewish people have given to Christians everything that we have. They have given to us the Bible, they've given to us the patriarchs, they've given us the first family of Christianity. Without the Jewish people, we would have absolutely nothing. And it's something that skips the minds of people when they start to express themselves about Israel and the Jewish people. What America owns to the Jewish people is enormous, and it's a debt of gratitude that we will try to pay to the end of our lives.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You know, it's so very moving to see these numbers of people streaming over these grounds right now. These were this exact same site where the cattle trains came as they unloaded human beings on that same path who were sent directly to their deaths. Within a matter of hours, they no longer existed, not even their remains. Right now, we can look in the center of the crowd and we can see the Israeli and the Polish presidents marching side by side. And it should be noted, it's quite interesting that Israeli President Isaac Herzog, his father Chaim, also served as the head of the Jewish state. And Chaim Herzog was an officer in the British Army who took part in the liberation of the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. And in addition to that, the current Israeli president, Isaac Herzog's grandfather, who is Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog, was also once the chief rabbi of Israel, and he actually met with the Allied Forces Supreme Commander, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, in the mid-1940s as part of the mission to save the Jews of Europe. Okay, let's return now to Shosh and to see her interview now with Pastor Larry Huck, who, together with his wife Tiz, are the founders and the senior pastors of the New Beginnings Church, whose mission it is to stand with Israel and bring down the walls between Christian and the Jewish peoples.
So, Erin, right now I am standing with Pastor Larry Huck and his two amazing daughters. This is their third time in Poland visiting concentration camps here. Does this experience change every single time you come back, and how do you feel different this year?
Yeah, you know, every time we come, we see something different, we learn something different. This was probably the most changing for us because we went to areas where we saw 800 children that were murdered during the Holocaust. But we were standing in front of this memorial, and I said, is this a memorial for the children? And our guide said, no. And I said, so this is for Jewish adults, because it had the metal outlines with them holding their bags with a Nazi soldier in the middle. And he said, no, these were Christians who were standing up for the Jews, and they were murdered also. And so that's a phenomenal message for us to take to the world, to the Gentile world, is that back then there were Christians, there were Gentiles who said, here's what the Word of God says, we are not allowing this to happen. And like I said, I did an interview over there, and I said that result was their death. This result of Jews and Christians standing together, we believe, is going to bring about the Messiah and the healing in the world of Jews and Christians coming together. So this is every time we come here, it's an amazing trip, but this has been really amazing.
When you go home, what will your message be to people who listen to you around the world about this one experience that you had? Of course, it's about the unity and coming together, but what more will you be able to share with them?
Well, like I said, right before we came here, we went to Paris, where we sponsored a flight of Olim coming from France to Israel. We've been doing that. We've been working with Karen Hayazot for years and years. We've been doing things and supporting Israel for 32 years. But when we were in France, we looked at the anti-Semitism, because we see it in America, but the depth of the anti-Semitism that Jews face is every day there. The day we landed, a rabbi got beat up. His son got beat up. The next day, I don't know if you remember, 10 years ago, they killed in a kosher grocery store, they killed 4 Jews. And they firebombed it on that anniversary. We went there to film. We were setting up our cameras, and people were riding by shouting ISIS and Hamas slogans. And so we saw the anti-Semitism that was beyond what we've seen in America on the news. But here's what really grabbed me, and this is what we're taking back from here and from Paris and from our trip to Israel, is we met with the Israeli ambassador. And we were talking about this. I mean, we had a wonderful Jewish lady showing us around in Paris, and she said, as long as we don't provoke them. And I said, define provoke. And she said, well, men can't wear a yarmulke. We can't wear a Star of David. Can't put a mezuzah on your door. And I thought, that's ridiculous. And so the ambassador told us it's only 25%. Now think about this. Paris is like the bucket list of people to go and visit. We did the tourist thing. We saw the Eiffel Tower. We saw a lot of different things. But here's Jewish people that we talked to that became our friends, became our family. We're on the airplane with them back to Israel, and we said, why are you leaving? Well, one is Israel really is our home, but two is the safety for our children. So here's people having to flee because 25% are anti-Semitic. What does that mean? That means 75% aren't saying anything. And so the message that we saw on this trip and we saw there and we're telling the world is, if we're the 75% and we're not part of the answer, we're part of the problem. So as Christians, we want you to stand up. You know, this last election when President Trump got elected, we're very vocal. We have a television program that's on every day, as you know, but we're very vocal, and we would tell the world, if you have a politician that is not standing up for Israel, you let him know. We will not vote for you. If he's in office, you let him know. We want you out of office, and we're going to vote for those who are standing with Israel. You know, the Avos, the father of all blessings, is Genesis 12:3. I will bless those who bless Israel. But there's another part. I'll curse those who curse Israel. And so the message that we want to bring to especially the Gentile, well, one, to the Jewish world is, we're standing with you. We will never, ever desert you. We're not here to convert you. We need you to be more Jewish tomorrow than you are today, because you're our base. You're our foundation, and we'll never desert you. We will stand with you. We will be loud with you. We will be proud with you. And our message to the Christian world is, speak up. Because if we're silent, the 25% are going to win. You know, when I came over to Israel right after October 7th, people at the airport were asking, why are you coming? And I said, I don't really know. But when I got there just a couple weeks after October 7th, I realized, from our driver to the guy at the hotel to generals we talked to, the mayors of towns, they said, we felt like we were all alone. And you coming here makes us realize we're not alone. And that's our message to the Jewish people. They may be the loud minority, but we're becoming the loud majority. We are speaking loud and we're speaking proud. We love Israel, we love the Jewish people, and we will stand against anti-Semitism all over the world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation.
You can now see many of the marchers leaving their markers with messages of remembrance, messages of honor, messages of tribute, and messages of hope. Again, the very same train tracks that brought so many people to their deaths. Of the 1.3 million people who were sent to Auschwitz, 1.1 million were murdered. 960 800,000 of that number were Jewish, of whom the vast majority, 865,000, were gassed upon arrival. What that means is that 1 of 6 Jews murdered in the Holocaust died here at Auschwitz-Birkenau. It's interesting to delve into the usage and the etymology of the word Holocaust itself. The word originated in the Greek language, which meant burnt offering, in an apparent reference to the incineration of the victims' bodies in crematoria. It's also been used to include non-Jewish victims, such as the Roma, Soviet prisoners of war, homosexuals, or others who were persecuted. Now, in Israel, the Hebrew word Shoah is used, and that is translated into English as the catastrophic destruction. And the word Shoah is exclusively used for the Jewish genocide. Now, the Nazis used the term final solution, aimed at their attempts to kill every last Jew on earth. Again, we're taking a look as people, these again are Sharut Leomi Israel members of the delegation. These are people who do national service. Young people, generally between the ages of 18 to 20. Some are cheering. Some are singing as they come through that infamous gate. Shosh now brings us this interview with TikTok creators Matan Paretz and Shiraz Shukran.
And Aaron, right now I'm standing with Matan, who's a stand-up comedian, and Shiraz, who is a content creator. This is your first time. This is your second time. It's the second time TikTok has taken a delegation to Auschwitz as part of the International March of the Living. For both of you, tell me how it feels being in this very moment, standing in front of these buildings here.
For me, it's surreal. I don't know. I've seen so many pictures. I've heard so many, talks about this place from actual Holocaust survivors, and to actually stand here, I don't think I've fully grasped this situation yet. So we'll see.
And your second time here?
Yeah, it's actually my second time. First time was almost 10 years ago, actually, when I was a student, 10th or 11th grade. I was really young, so I couldn't really comprehend all the things that I was seeing. I couldn't realize what I'm seeing. I couldn't understand that it's something that really happened. And now when I'm fully grown up, and it's been 10 years and it's been almost 2 years since October 7th, I'm seeing those things a little bit differently. It's more realistic to me. And honestly, it feels so I can't even describe what I'm feeling right now. It's just like an explosion of emotions almost.
And the first time you've been back since October 7th. In that context, how does that change your experience, your perspective being here today?
I don't know. I think it's just for me, I think as a kid, I felt a lot of sorrow, and and you cry, and it's very hard. But as a grown-up, and after I served in the reserve service in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria at the beginning of the war, so I just feel a lot of rage. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel right now.
Rage in what way? Explain it.
As a Jew, I can't believe that people actually did that. I've heard the stories, I know all the history, but to be here actually and see the fences, it's insane to me.
You can see the systemic problem, the systemic order that was established here to kill so many Jews, millions of Jews. After October 7th, I'm not sure if you've been down to the kibbutzim. How would you say something like that compares to being here in this moment and seeing?
I feel like as Jewish people, there's always something. It's never quiet. People always try to harm us in any way possible. And the Holocaust was really the first time that something that big happened. And in October 7th, I think that in the first day, the amount of killing that was happening is the largest amount of killing in one day, even more than the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're living in. I don't know if I can call it a second Holocaust because it's a little bit different, but it comes from the same like hatred and anti-Zionism, which is the same as anti-Semitism to me. So yeah,
it's been hard. It's been very hard, and to see like the efficiency. I know it's a horrible word to use, but the efficiency of this is just staggering. I can't really comprehend as somebody who was in the army and still active service. It's just I don't understand how people can do this, really.
I want to talk about social media. What has it been like to be so active on social media in a time like this where there has been an extreme rise in anti-Semitism? As people who work to fight that online, have you been successful in that? And if so, how?
I think, I don't know about successful, but I think we got our point through as much as we could before we got banned almost like every 2 months. But it's hard because you have to, I think it's our job to like translate that kind of content to our viewers, and it's not always easy, and it's taken an emotional toll from all of us, and we're just trying to do our best of, trying to pay it forward and give the information as we see fit to our followers.
Yeah, I feel like it's my duty in life in general. This is my duty. Showing the truth, proving other people wrong. And also, I have never been more proud in being Jewish and being an Israeli Jewish. We're still here. We're standing so strong, no matter what happens. And we're so united, and it's so important to me. And I'm never gonna shut up. I'm never gonna shut up. It's always gonna be a part of my creations, like in social media, the videos that I'm uploading. It's always gonna be there. Never gonna stop, no matter how many times I'm gonna get banned.
That's our job. I think, unfortunately, for our children, I don't know if they'll have a Holocaust survivors to talk to. They're unfortunately, because that's how time works, they're gone so soon. And for me to tell my children, and I was here 80 years after it ended, but still, I think that's, like Shira said, that's our duty, because we're losing those people, and we have to make sure that the next generation knows exactly what happened here, and the fact that as Jews, the same as we stood on the ruins of Rome, we stood in the ruins of this camp, and we stand on the ruins of everyone who tried to harm us. It's going to be hard for a while, but eventually we're going to prevail like we always did ever since we got created.
Thank you both so much. You can see the defiance and hear the defiance in your voices. Appreciate your time.
Thank you
so much.
As we can see, most, if not many, if not most of all the participants are arriving here at Birkenau from the Auschwitz death camp. People are just streaming in. There's the Jewish Agency of Israel, which was like a quasi pre-Israeli government that still functions but as a non-governmental capacity. And it's quite a mix of people you see. You see the elderly. You see people of parents' age, people of children's age, every generation. And we have here multiple generations after survivors, referred to as the second generation survivor. They also felt the impact. Third generation survivors and fourth generation survivors who carry the trauma of their grandparents, parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents with them. On both sides of that small green ravine that you see, which now has grass, that did not used to exist, are where the trains brought these people to their deaths. When one thinks of those who did lose their lives in the Holocaust overall, it's interesting to note that the highest number of the 6 million Jews who were murdered came from Hungary, as I mentioned previously, and that actual number was about 550,000 victims from Hungary. Poland follows Hungary with 300,000 Jewish victims. France, which surprises many people, came next at 69,000. 60,000 of the murdered were from the Netherlands. 55,000 were from Greece. 46,000 were from Bohemia and Moravia. 27,000 from Slovakia. 25,000 from Belgium. About 23,000 from both Germany and Austria. 10,000 from what was then Yugoslavia. And 7,500 from Italy. And 690 from Norway. The universal goal of the International March of the Living is to help inspire all of the participants to fight indifference, racism, and injustice by witnessing the atrocities of the Holocaust. The organization's hope is that the program will help strengthen Jewish identity, connections to Israel, and to build a community of future Jewish leaders. Shosh discussed these worthy aspirations with the CEO of the International March of the Living, Scott Sanders.
And joining us now is Scott. Thank you so much for being here and speaking with us. This year, of course, is the 80th year of the liberation of these concentration camps. I know you want to talk about something specific when it comes to the UK delegation. What can you share with us?
So before I start on the UK delegation, I think we should just look around and reflect on some of the meaning. I mean, Auschwitz is the iconic symbol for the Shoah. It has the gates and everybody in the world knows it. But we must also remember that the 80th anniversary of liberation included other camps. It included the end of the Second World War. And we must pay tribute, obviously, not only in memory to those that were murdered, but the forces of the Allied soldiers, of which Merrill Eisenhower's great-grandfather was the head of the Allied forces, who gave their lives to liberate these camps, especially in Germany and Austria and all over Eastern Europe. Wherever there was murder and destruction, other soldiers came to our rescue, not only ours, but to Western democracy.
Yeah, it's an incredible feeling being here and to see everybody around and to see so many people who are officials that came here to see the incredible March of the Living with 80 Holocaust survivors this year is pretty significant. Yeah. For the 80th year, we have 80 Holocaust survivors is extremely significant. I'd like for you to talk about now the UK delegation and what you would like to say there.
So first of all, I mean, the 80 Holocaust survivors, which is so important because, I don't know next year whether we'll still have 80 Holocaust survivors here. But the UK in particular was meant to have 6 today, and unfortunately only had 5. And one in particular, Eve Kugler, who passed away 2 days ago in the UK, and we were all completely devastated. Eve had dedicated her life to Holocaust education in the UK. She was a witness of Kristallnacht, and she came with me on the very first UK March for the Living in 2010. And she was a friend, she was a mentor, and an inspiration to literally thousands of British students all over the country. And I think as much as we are paying tribute to the 80 that are here, for me personally, I shall miss her because I walked with her here. And she took such pride at coming with March of the Living. She went on March of the Living to Dubai to represent the International March of the Living, to speak about Kristallnacht. She was a force and a character that was an inspiration.
What has it emotionally done to the UK delegation here, knowing that she was supposed to come? Tell me how they're feeling.
I think in particular for the survivors, the other 5 survivors that are here, they are absolutely devastated because they saw her 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I also think for the delegation itself, there's 250 from the UK here today. Some of them wouldn't have known her, but I can tell you that one of the educators, who's a rabbi, flew home this morning to go to her levaya. And they paid tribute to her last night at a special moving ceremony for the UK delegation. It hits hard. It hits hard, but it also shows us how vulnerable we are in that educational process, as these, our survivors are the living testimony. But they will move shortly. Unfortunately, the story is going to move from memory to history, and it is our responsibility and our children's responsibility to maintain their memory and maintain those stories so that people, like Eisenhower's great-grandfather said, one day people will say that never happened. It is our responsibility to make sure that that is not the case.
Right. Every single year, the number of survivors dwindles. How can society, how can other Jews, people who have heard her story and other survivors' story, keep this alive? One day they won't be here. There won't be any survivors left. From your experience working in this field, what can people do to continue learning in the future without this living testimony?
I mean, I think there's 2 things, and I know that there's an awful amount of educational programs globally that have looked at different ways of virtual reality and different fields. I personally think that the 2 key areas, one is we filmed our survivors. We filmed Eve actually in Germany, outside her home where she came from, at the train station where her parents went. We filmed her. And that film is there. We filmed other survivors in location, not just in a classroom, not just on a screen, but in location to bring a sense of the real truth, because it was on location. And that's one of the things that is so important about coming to a place like here. You can read it in a history book. You can see it in a TV movie or a documentary. But when you stand here, and that's why we must keep bringing students, we must keep bringing young people, because education, constant reminders of where hatred can lead. And by the way, not just hatred towards Jews, but hatred towards anybody. I will fight against hatred against anybody.
Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you speaking with me, and we'll make sure to always keep her memory alive. May it always stay alive, and I'm so sorry for your loss, but her memory will live on, and that's exactly what will continue to be here and live here as the International March of the Living happens every year. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
It's only just about 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, but as you can see, there's been an inclement change in the weather. We came from a very sunny morning to now it's getting a bit darker. It wasn't as terrible as it could have been because there were thunderstorms and lightning that were predicted, but there have been sprinkles of rain. Fortunately, the people are walking under relatively good circumstances, which in comparison with what the people who were interned here endured in the below zero frigid temperatures, in uniforms, so-called prisoner uniforms that were really rags. Some people didn't have shoes. To be here in January on the actual date of the liberation, the end of World War II, when the international ceremony takes place here, the conditions are unbearable. You see people in very heavy coats and boots, and you cannot imagine what the people who lived here actually experienced. On a day like today, it doesn't seem so difficult, but yet, as it becomes more overcast, it seems that it is more fitting for such a terrible environment of these blood-soaked grounds. And nevertheless, as we continue to stress, as much as visitors come here to mourn, the very spirit of the International March of the Living is to additionally serve as a pledge to build a better world for all of humanity as part of a larger celebration of people who not only survived, but went on to strengthen and build families and their own communities and live very, very full lives after the war. Barbara Frankus, MBE from Warsaw, was just 1 year old when the Nazis invaded Poland in September of 1939. I asked her to tell us about some of her experiences.
I was born in Warsaw, 1938. Lived in Warsaw and what was later the ghetto, in a very nice street. Come from a middle class. My father was a doctor and he practiced until, I think, 1940. And after that, he was taken. We all had to go to the ghetto, which was shut off. He must have been taken away because I lost trace of him at the time. My mother did. I was in the ghetto for a year or two, I don't know. I was first in eastern Poland and came back from eastern Poland to go to the ghetto. Then we were there. And eventually, my mother and I were smuggled out of the ghetto. She was placed with other group of other Jews in a basement of a tenement building. I was put with a Polish family. It was looked after, inverted commas, in their flat. They were paid by my mother. Unfortunately, my mother with a group of other people, they were betrayed for a 12 of flour by a Pole. That was the reward.
Unimaginable.
And the Germans came in, took everyone out to be shot, and their habit was that every Pole had to watch it as a deterrent. So they made sure that everyone came down from from every flat in a tenement building. They meticulously checked. I came down as well. Fortunately, I couldn't see it because I was little. My view was blocked. I was 5. And unfortunately, she was shot with all the other people. I only found out yesterday or Monday that my mother was actually buried in a Warsaw cemetery in a general pit where they put all the bodies. And I was only told by complete chance because I've got in touch with a Polish historian, or he got in touch with me, and he's done a lot of research, found out where I lived and what happened to my mother. What happened then? Then when my mother stopped paying because she was dead, the guy actually decided to get rid of me. So he took me to the nearest woods on the outskirts of Warsaw, left me there in December, which was snowing and cold, took my coat away and left me there to die. Well, I didn't die. I was there for a whole night. I was there subsequently for a day and another night. I didn't move from the spot because I naively thought that he actually lost me and he would come back. So I didn't dare to move from the spot. I was subsequently found by boys sledging who took me to the local police station. From then, I had to go to a German police station to be examined whether I was Jewish or not, and conclusion was that I wasn't because A, I didn't have a Jewish accent, B, I was well prepared and briefed before I was smuggled out from the ghetto to learn all the Catholic prayers, which I could recite. So then I went back to the Polish police station, and one of the policemen adopted me, took me there, and looked after me, he and his wife. They gave me a new lease of life, new childhood, and I was with them to after the liberation, when eventually in spring 1946, my father, who survived, found me in the middle of the country, no longer in Warsaw, and he brought me back. I was with him. He knew his wife was dead. He didn't know anything about me, and he and his new girlfriend, who became his wife later on, had felt was their responsibility to look for me. And after painstaking search, they found me.
What a miracle.
Yes, and I lived with them until I left Poland with them in 1958, went to United States, and in the United States, I lived in New York. I studied at New York University. Then I went on a holiday to Israel, and on the way to Israel, I met a British guy, and a year later, he came over to the States. We got married, and I came to the UK, and I've been there ever since.
Did you have children?
I have 2 children, one David, one Andrew, 2 boys, quite bright, both well-educated in Cambridge, both lawyers, and very happy with the family.
What is your message to them about endurance, resilience, and the triumph over evil?
Make sure that the evil, which will always exist, try to fight it as much as possible. Take the world seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. Think of other people before you think of yourself. Be charitable and fight racism and ignorance, which is racist. The reason for racism is ignorance, as much as possible within your capabilities. Fight it and don't allow to surface too much, because then the Holocaust or similar genocides will repeat.
You've been here to Auschwitz before. How many times?
It's 4th or 5th time.
Why do you come?
Because I go to the March of the Living. We march from Auschwitz to Birkenau every year because we are alive. That's why it's called March of the Living. But these people, previous generations of my generation or the previous to me, march the same thing to death. We march and we love life and we celebrate life, and we march and show that Hitler did not win. We're still here, and hopefully we're going to be here for generations.
Barbara Frankus, thank you so much for joining us. We're very happy to have you here. Joining us right now is Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you for having me.
And you are leading a delegation of dozens of United Nations ambassadors here on this march today.
Indeed, and you know, bringing ambassadors to Poland and Israel during a wartime, it wasn't easy. But the ambassadors told me, thank you for bringing us. It's so powerful, so emotional to march with the survivors, to see in their eyes what happened here in Auschwitz. For them, it's a life-changing experience.
Were these countries that you consider basically friendly to Israel? What did it take to ask them and get them to come? Was it difficult? Was it a hard initiative?
Well, it wasn't easy for two reasons. First, to convince ambassadors to leave their post in New York for 8-9 days. It's a long period of time. And second, we are under attack. We are at wartime. Israel is being criticized day and night in the United Nations, and for them to come and to understand what's happening, it speaks volumes. I wish I could bring the entire UN to see what happened here in Auschwitz, to see the hate. It's the same hate that we faced 80 years ago, we are facing today in the halls of the UN. They call it in different names, but look at the leader of Iran. He called for the extermination of the state of Israel. So maybe you don't see the swastikas, but it's the same hatred like the Nazis.
Now, the United Nations since October 7th of 2023 have passed the United Nations General Assembly, 3 resolutions that were calling for an end to the war and were seen as largely critical of Israel. Do you think that this exposes some sort of innate bias? Well, not backing Israel or going into depth about the atrocities committed by Hamas. Does this betray to you some sort of a institutional bias?
Absolutely. Since October 7th, we haven't seen one resolution condemning the atrocities of October 7th, one resolution condemning Hamas, not in the General Assembly or in the Security Council. That's shameful. That's shameful. And when they tell me
unimaginable.
Tell me about, you know, ending the war, I tell them we have 59 hostages today in Gaza. We will not end the war and forget about them. The war will end when we'll get the hostages back and Hamas will not be around.
I follow your activity very closely at the UN, and I really want to tell you, you're doing a fantastic job by keeping the awareness of the critical issues, particularly since October 7th. Do you have any cause for optimism that at the United Nations, we've been stirring for some time now, that this situation there will ever change? Will it ever shift for the better?
Well, I'm optimistic by nature, and I believe in engagement. In order to convince so many ambassadors to come here, I met them one-on-one. I engage with them, I convince them. So I still have hope. I think the majority of the world, they don't know the facts. They are ignorant, and we have to educate them. You know, you have those who are against us, but the majority are not involved. We have to engage with them.
Have you been here on the March of the Living previously?
Yes, but the first time for me coming here after October 7th, it's a different feeling. Because
absolutely.
We always say never again, and we cannot compare the Holocaust to anything else. But you know, what we have seen in Israel on October 7th, we realize that we still have to face evil. That's what we faced on October 7th. That's what happened here, evil. But today it's different. Today we have our own state, we have our own military,
yes.
We are much stronger, and we are capable of defending ourselves.
Tell us a little bit about the ambassadors who did join your delegation. From what countries
Well, it's a big delegation, dozens of ambassadors from African countries, European ambassadors, Pacific Islands. Some of them are very friendly, some of them come to learn, and we appreciate that. I wish I could bring the entire UN to be with us today in the March of the Living.
What do you think the most profound impact someone has? You can learn about the Holocaust, you can be educated about the Holocaust, but yet being here is such a different feeling, and as you mentioned, particularly since October 7th, what's it like for you to be on these grounds knowing what happened here?
Well, you know me for years.
Yes.
I'm not silent. And I think
I like that about you.
Thank you. For many of my colleagues, I think being here, they realize that they cannot be silent. If you see evil, speak up. If you see brutality, condemn it. And I think we would see them more active coming back at the UN and speaking on behalf of their countries.
I very much hope so. What is your reaction to when you've seen today and yesterday during this week, you've seen the survivors, the young survivors of October 7th, walking side by side, hugging Holocaust survivors. Can you imagine that there would ever be a young generation, like a sandwich generation for us, the older ones than us and the younger ones from us, who share such common experiences?
That was very emotional. You know, I met Eli Sharabi which I hosted him at the Security Council a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And seeing him here in Auschwitz marching with us, you know, a few weeks ago, he was in captivity in the tunnels of Hamas.
Endured terrible conditions,
And
really
he
terrible.
lost his wife, his 2 daughters, his brother, and here he is standing, marching, representing the Jewish people. It shows our resilience, our strength, our commitment. And I think that is the best lesson. You know, our enemies think that we will give up, but we will never give up.
It is so powerful to be here, and I was talking about, oh, we have an ambassador joining us now. Come please join us. Tell us, you're a United Nations ambassador from where?
From Malawi.
You're from Malawi.
Yes.
And have you been to Auschwitz before?
No, this is the first time.
How is it affecting you?
Oh, I've been so shocked. I've been shivering, particularly today, having gone through the process of all what has been happening here. I can't believe. And my body is shivering, and I feel that human beings cannot do what happened here. And we cannot continue like this.
I like this message, and I share this. I have been here before, but it's just inconceivable to imagine such evil occurred here, although you do feel the spirit and you see the physical remains. In fact, I don't know if our audience realizes it or you do, but we're standing next to one of the collapsed crematoria right here. And on our other side is the other collapsed crematoria. To stand between these places where so many tens of thousands of people were murdered viciously, children, old people, how can you react to that?
You know, back home in Africa, you feel scared. You fear the tomb place. You fear the cemetery. That's the way I'm feeling now, that really I'm like in a cemetery. And where it's all bushes, and when it used to be very, very scary to be in the cemetery. But you know what? Being a representative at the UN, we all have a voice to make these inhuman actions end. And I've written a message which I've left on the railway line there to say that all world leaders, we need to make sure that this inhumanity does not happen again on this earth and our watch. And the most important thing to do is to prevent any conflict, first and foremost, because conflicts or plans of this nature are known much earlier, but we cannot allow to let them continue. So really pleading to all world leaders at the UN, everywhere, that we need to make sure that we are human in all our policies, in all our legal frameworks, in all what we do, but that we take care of human life. That's what I've learned here.
That's a very powerful statement. Thank you so much, Ambassador. I'd like to ask you yet another question about people who deny that the hatred toward Israel has anything to do with anti-Semitism. What's your reaction to that allegation?
Well, I tell them directly, it's legitimate to criticize Israel, but it's illegitimate to use double standards. Use the same standards that you criticize other countries. But when it comes to a nation that defends ourselves, you cannot condemn us for defending ourselves. And I think those double standards are unacceptable. We have no problem with criticism. We can challenge them. We can answer those questions. But we have a problem with the double standards.
What do you make of the worldwide surge of anti-Semitism we've seen all over, whether it's physical attacks, verbal attacks, vandalism, death threats?
Well, I think we can agree that it's on the rise, anti-Semitism, in Europe, in the US, everywhere. There's a huge gap between the declarations and the actions. You will hear leaders, including today here in the March of the Living, who will condemn anti-Semitism. The question, what is being done? How many indictments? How many people were convicted for acts of supporting anti-Semitism or violent attacks against Jews all around the world? You know, very small numbers. And I think that's what we should demand. We should demand from the leaders around the world not only to speak about never again and against hate. That's important, but not enough. take actions, implement the laws that you have in your countries.
A little while from now, you will be addressing this gathering. What message will you have for them?
Well, the message is very clear. When we say never again, we mean it. When we see the Iranians threatening our existence, we will not wait for them. We learned the lessons of history. Today we are strong, we have the capabilities, and we will not allow anyone to threaten us.
Do you have any other message for our worldwide audience who's watching us live right now?
Well, I know that many people wished to be with us today and to march with us. And I encourage them that one day to find the time to come here, to be in Auschwitz, to be here. I think it's very important. And I want to thank those millions who support us and pray for us. The people of Israel live. Am Israel Chai.
Am Israel Chai. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Be well. If you will look behind us now, you will be able to see that now the rain is coming down, as we feared it would. It adds to the somber mood here, and again brings back reminiscences of what it must have been like for the poor inhabitants of this camp. Year in, year out, some of the captives were here for years. Just before the rainstorm, Shesh was able to catch up with some of the people along the route of the march.
So the march here in Auschwitz officially started. They're en route to Birkenau. Right now, the delegation that's marching behind me are people that are released hostages from October 7th. As you can see here, multiple of them, they're with their families as well. Agam Berger was just here leading the delegation. Ori Megidish is also over there. She was also a rescued hostage. As you can see, more and more delegations continue to come out. People whose loved ones survived the Holocaust, who survived the Auschwitz camp. They're here marching in solidarity, in unity together. And that's what makes this march so special, is that people are marching hand in hand with their family members, their friends, people they just met but feel so connected to. Not only that, they are marching with 80 Holocaust survivors to mark the 80 years since the liberation of the concentration camps here in Europe by the Nazis throughout the continent. And now we're starting to see more and more delegations come through, a little bit less, as the majority of them kind of have come through at this point, many of them with Israeli flags draped around them. One guy was actually holding a Torah as he was marching through. A lot of people are carrying things that have a lot of meaning to them in such a meaningful march. And this is a moment people have been waiting for. This is a moment that brings a lot of emotions. But like I said, unity together. Aaron?
Mala Tribich is a child survivor of the Holocaust who was first incarcerated in a Polish ghetto. Then she witnessed her mother being shot to death before her very eyes, after which she was transported by a notorious cattle car to the Ravensbrück concentration camp and then on to Bergen-Belsen, from which she was finally liberated. She explained to me why it is so important to her to participate in the International March of the Living. With everything that you have gone through, why would you come back today, join the March of the Living, and visit Auschwitz?
Well, I feel not duty-bound. I actually want to do it because we want to remember these victims of that terrible, terrible war and this particular camp. I mean, I don't know how anybody survived it. It was so shocking. And for me, it's like going to a graveyard, going to a cemetery and visiting someone who died and about whom I cared. And I can't say that I knew all the people, I cared about all the people, but I feel so strongly that we must never forget them. And the only way we can keep the memory going is to keep coming and visiting the cemetery, so to speak, although there are no bodies here. And every time I'm here, I have to imagine of what was going on, because this wasn't the camp I was in. I was in different camps. But when I'm here, I think of the people, I can almost see them, so degraded, so thin, so desperate, in such pain, and the conditions. I mean, it's just all in front of my eyes.
Ultimately, you did go to the UK. Did you have a family?
Well, yes, my brother was in the UK, and that's why I came to join him after the war. And yes, I got married quite early, and I have a lovely family of 2 children, a girl and a boy, and 3 grandchildren.
What kind of lessons did you try to impart to them about survival and remaining intact, keeping your soul in place, where to go from here after what you've been through?
Well, I have to say that we didn't really discuss this very much at home. And they didn't discuss it with me. I know my children are very knowledgeable about it, but it's mostly from reading. And somehow you can't hide things from children easily. They have ways of finding out. And they really, my daughter is very knowledgeable, and so is my son, both of them. They're very well aware of what happened and how it happened, and they're all from reading. My son actually studied at Yad Vashem for a little while, but my daughter has read very extensively. And but we never made it into a subject at home. If it came up and there was actually something relevant, we discussed it, but it was never out of context. We didn't just discuss it because I was there and I experienced it. It was sort of a general knowledge and general discussion.
We're very grateful you came to the March of the Living today, and that you continue to serve as the living witness to what took place during those terrible times. Thank you so much for being with us. So returning earlier from Auschwitz, where it was sunny, back here to Birkenau now, and as you can see, the rain is absolutely pelting the participants, many of whom, particularly the elderly, have little vehicles to help protect them and help them make that arduous journey here, which again, it's 3.2 kilometers of a walk that prisoners were forced to take every day in terrible health. People who had been beaten, people who had been starved. And so even under the best weather environment, it was an arduous walk. So it not only takes willingness to come here, interest and motivation, but it takes courage, it takes bravery. As Phyllis Heidemann Greenberg told you earlier, the president of March of the Living, people can choose to take their time and go on vacation to Hawaii. They can take their free time from their jobs and their lives and studies and come here to enrich their lives. Well, we are nearing the start of the official ceremony for the International March of the Living 2025, being held here at the base of the crematorium on both sides of me at the Birkenau extermination camp, where Holocaust survivors, leaders, and young people will be heard during the ceremony, along with the recitation of prayer in memory of the 6 million Jews who perished in the Holocaust.
We are gathered here at Auschwitz-Birkenau, just one
Let's take a look right now at the stage at the beginning of the ceremony.
At the sound of the siren, please rise.
As I said, ladies and gentlemen, we are significantly reducing the program duration. I would like to introduce Happy Hoffman, who's going to sing some song for us. As I said, the ceremony will be significantly reduced, no torch lighting, a 15-minute ceremony, and you will all be on your way. Thank you.
There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer. If you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. See the truth that a hero lies in you. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. You can find love if you search within yourself, and the emptiness you felt will disappear. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. When you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. Dreams are hard to follow, but don't let anyone tear them away. Hold on, there will be tomorrow. In time, you'll find the way. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry your fears aside, and you know you can survive. When you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth, that a hero lies in you.
As I said, we will be apologetically shortening significantly the duration of this ceremony. I would ask all of our Holocaust survivors to remain, please, where you are. Even in our darkest hours, generations of Jews have found hope in the prayer Shir HaMa'alot. Singer-songwriter Daniel Weiss, who survived the massacre at Kibbutz Be'eri, but whose parents were murdered there, is joined by violinist Agam Berger, an IDF soldier taken hostage at the Nachal Oz army base and returned to Israel after 482 days in Hamas captivity. Agam will play on a 130-year-old violin which survived the Holocaust. How fitting and symbolic that on this instrument and in this place, Agam, herself a survivor, will begin with a brief musical selection from Schindler's List.
אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל יתן למות רגליך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל, השם שומרך עצם צלך על יד ימינך, יומם השמש לא יגע וירח בלילה, השם ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, השם ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל יתן למות רגליך, על יד ימינך, יומם השמש לא יגע וירח בלילה, השם ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, השם ישמור צאתך
we'll say together the Kaddish, and after it we'll go
to the end of the ceremony, together with me. Unfortunately, the weather. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועולמה דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך, ישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, שבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעולמה, ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Before singing of the Hatikvah, we will not oversee one final song. One final song which was to teach the Jewish children the alphabet, and today it is sung here in Yiddish and Hebrew by Sarah Weinstein from Israel, a Holocaust survivor, together with Chazan Shai Abramson, accompanied by the IDF Rabbinate Choir, musical director and conductor Ophir Sobol. The song, often Pripyat at the fireplace.
Auf in Pripyat brennt a fire und in Stub is heiß und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinder nach dem Aleph Beis und der Rebbe lernt kleine Kinder nach dem Aleph Beis.
Zogt kinderlach, zogt Treiere, was ich lern do. Zogt noch amol und take noch amol, kommet Aleph Beis. Zogt noch amol und take noch amol, kommet Aleph Beis.
Lernt Kinder mit größer Chesed, azoi zog ich euch on. Welche Bücher von euch kennen ihr wisst, der bekommt davon. Welche Bücher von euch kennen ihr wisst, der bekommt davon. Zogt kinderlach, gedenkt Teiere, was ich lern do. Zogt noch amol und tage noch amol, kommet Aleph O. Zogt noch amol und tage noch amol, kommet Aleph O.
Ladies and gentlemen, Before asking you to remain standing for the Hatikva, I have a couple of announcements. We've been told and advised that as you walk back and out of Birkenau, please do not walk on or near the railroad tracks. They do present a security risk, and so please be very careful. One final announcement. What you don't see behind me is an enormous amount of people who have been working 8 months to put this thing into production. I would ask you all, please, to show our appreciation to the people that work so hard for this ceremony. And remember that our hope is the source of our strength. That hope is expressed in the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva.
עם ישראל חי! עם ישראל חי! עם ישראל חי!
I'd like to thank all of our honored guests during this special broadcast as we witness the thousands of people, including Holocaust survivors, commemorate 80 years since the liberation of the Nazi concentration camps, as well as the rebirth of the Jewish state of Israel nearly 77 years ago. I'm Erin Viner, broadcasting live from the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camps, with many thanks to everyone who helped create this very special and historic event, especially the International March of the Living Deputy CEO, Revital Yakim Krakowski, and Digital Communications Director Ariana Heidman-Typograph, our director Elad Rubenstein, as well as our production team headed by Daniel Schugert and Shawnee Cooper, and of course my colleague in the field, Shosh Bedrosian, and most of all, our worldwide audience for joining us for the 37th Annual International March of the Living. Shalom.